I'm Heyzeus, and in this video, we are going to be talking about the problem with Operation Riptide skins, how Valve created it, but why it's also something the game is going to struggle to deal with in the future, barring a miracle, and also why that miracle might still end up happening. Now, this video is sponsored by Skinport, the easy-to-use skins marketplace where you can sell your skins for real cash. Skinport has a huge range of skins, over 220,000 of them at prices miles cheaper than the Steam market, up to 35% off. You can purchase skins in an instant, just pick what you want and straight up buy it. There is no need to deposit and there are no hidden fees. There's also a high definition screenshot feature built into the site itself so you can see exactly what you're getting before you buy. The site is also super highly rated on Trustpilot with a 4.9 out of 5-star rating. It is completely safe and reliable to use, so I highly recommend checking it out. Link is in the description. So a couple of years ago, Valve added a skin to the game called the Orc Gungnir. It was basically a centerpiece of Operation Shattered Web, an insane new skin designed to get people excited and drive engagement with the game, and that is exactly what it did. Over the next year and a half, its price would increase basically non-stop, ultimately peaking at about $12,000 US before the market crashed in June because the whole thing had become a ridiculous inflated bubble. And over the same period of time, CSGO's player base boomed. Now, skins are inexorably intertwined with CSGO's success as a game. What's good for one is good for another, and while it's one of many factors behind the game's success, there is no doubt that having good skins added to the game that people like is a really important factor, and there is no better measure of whether people like the skins than their prices, and in particular, whether those prices are going up. And on those metrics, the Orc Gungnir has been a major success. But fast forward 2 years and we have a slightly different story playing out. Valve releases another flashy new Orc, the Desert Hydra for Operation Riptide, and this time it did basically the opposite of what the Gungnir did. After starting at an initial high of over $3,000, it quickly crashed to half of that. And compared to the Gungnir, it is early days for the Hydra. It's been 2 months rather than 2 years. You can't really know where it'll be in 2 years' time, but the narrative that started to emerge in the community isn't one of hype, but of oversaturation. Many people are concerned these skins are simply too common and will never truly be that valuable. And whether that's actually going to be the case or not, it's still a pretty bad sign. It's not what you want people to be thinking about the game's latest high-end skins. So what exactly is the difference here? The Orc Gungnir and the Orc Desert Hydra both have a lot in common. They're both very good looking skins made by talented artists, which are both extremely difficult to get as a drop. By design, they are meant to be some of the most expensive things in the entire game, but so far, they're both showing very different trajectories and there's very different perceptions about their future prospects. So, where are things going wrong for the Desert Hydra? Well, let's just consider a third skin here, the Dragon Lore. You might have heard of it, but what you might not know is that for a long time, the Dragon Lore had a bit of a problem. And that problem was that it was too common. So the Dragon Lore was dropped in 5 different operations from 2014 to 2017, and although Valve's drop system put some natural limits on how many could be created, over time the market still ended up becoming oversaturated. Thousands and thousands of these things have been created, and as 2016 and 2017 rolled onwards, people were actually having real doubts about the future of this skin. And in 2018, as the game literally looked like it was going through a near-death experience after Valve nerfed trading, yeah, that was all it took to make people think the game was done for, a factory new Dragon Lore could be picked up for less than $1,000. But then, a miracle happened. And by miracle, I mean the continent of China discovered CSGO skins were a thing. And the result was that this thing ended up going from $1,000 to $10,000. Quite an incredible turnaround, a game that looked down and out, bouncing back in the most insane possible fashion, and also evidence that the short-term outlook doesn't necessarily tell you that much about where something is going in the future, but it does also tell you that having a lot of a skin floating around isn't great for its long-term prospects, and unless you can tap into a lucrative new market, you're not gonna have a particularly bright outlook. And that brings us back to the main focus of the video, the Riptide skins. Now, I've focused on the Desert Hydra here simply because it's the most famous operation skin added so far, but everything I've said about it really applies to the other Operation collections too. The Gold Arabesque has done the same thing. People forget the imminent danger even exists, and the hype around the Glock Emerald burnt out extremely quickly. And again, it's the opposite of what happened with the other Shattered Web skins like the Wild Lotus or the Prince. These skins didn't fizzle out, they just got more and more expensive over time. And part of what happened here is kind of just bad timing. You see, from the beginning of 2019 to June 2021, the price of CSGO skins have gone on a colossal bull run, largely driven by China, but just also by overall growth in the number of people playing the game, and definitely helped by the fact that cryptocurrency was going nuts at the same time. And the Shattered Web skins got dropped right in the middle of this and were really able to ride the wave. But in June 2021, that wave finally came to an end, and it was only after this that the Riptide skins were released. And not only that, they were also released around the most quiet time of year for the game, when people aren't hyped, they generally aren't playing as much, and they generally aren't spending as much either. So in that sense, it's not a surprise they haven't done as well, but there is a bit of a catch. You see, in 2014, there was just one high-end AWP skin in the game. Then in 2015, Valve added another. Then in 2019, they added 2 more. Then in 2020, they added another. And now in 2021, they've added 1 more on top of that. So we've got 6 of these things now. And when you have 6 of them, it really dilutes the purchasing power of the market. All the attention isn't directed towards one skin anymore, it's split between the 6. And that's before you consider the fact that it's also making this type of skin a lot more common. I mean, there's 6,400 Dragon Lords, 4,500 Medusas, and now there's 3,200 Gungnir's, 7,200 Princes, and 9,600 AWP Fanes. With each set of skins, we're seeing more and more supply flooding the market, and this is a problem Valve has made worse with what they've done to Operation drops. Rather than being a drop or something you had to obtain by filling out a battle pass, which you could pay to do, but it still made it harder to get the skins, you can now just print the new skins infinitely using the Riptide shop, and by paying Valve. But the important thing is, you can buy these things until your heart is content and there's absolutely nothing to slow you down, which in turn is making Operation skins more common. Why is the AWP Fade so much more common than the Prince or the Gungnir, even though it's an ugly piece of trash by comparison? Well, it's because its drop system made it much easier to get. And that might be fine when the game's player base is booming, but games can't be booming forever. At some point the growth has to slow down, and this is exactly what the AWP Fade, the big new skin from the last Operation, Broken Fang, got caught up in. The game slowed down after the operation, and the price of the skin got wrecked in the process, and it still hasn't recovered, not even a little bit. And unless the game's player base can find a way to grow really rapidly again, Operation Riptide skins are facing exactly the same fate. Now, on the flip side, there's still plenty of reasons to be optimistic. CSGO's player numbers peaked at 1.3 million in April 2020, and I don't think that's the peak of the game's potential. It's a solid game with a lot of things going for it. I think 2 million or 3 million are easily within its abilities. Also, old players have a bit of a tendency to leave skins in their accounts when they quit the game, essentially causing them to be lost. There's also cheaters who just outright get high-end stuff banned, both of which remove skins from circulation. And not only that, it seems like the market does kind of realize that the hype is slowing down. There's only 3,200 Desert Hydras out there, far less than there are AWP Fades. And sure, Operation Riptide is not over, but I still don't think the Hydra is going to end up being as common. And regardless of that, short term at least, we've got Christmas coming. The price of skins always goes up around this time of year. In fact, you can see it happening with the Operation skins already. In fact, honestly, it's probably not a bad time to buy them right now. But long term, we are still facing some bigger problems. The skin economy built into CSGO is going to be facing an issue where there are more and more skins, but the player base isn't going to be able to grow to keep up with it. And by definition, something like this isn't sustainable. Now, not being sustainable doesn't mean it can't last another 10 or 20 years either. And in video game terms, that may as well be forever. But I really don't think Valve's current model of dropping Operation skins is really compatible with long-term success. It really encourages people to buy lots and lots of drops, flood the market with skins, which then makes it more likely prices are going to fall afterwards. And if prices fall, people get burnt. And if people keep getting burnt, they're not going to keep spending money on skins, and that is a serious problem because it's how the entire game is funded. And this is why I'd like to see the current Operation Drop system revert back to something much more like the Shattered Web Battle Pass, or even a much more strict drop system. I think long term is better for the game. Sometimes less is more, and when it comes to the skin economy, which is literally built around scarcity, I think that's especially true. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and subscribe, massively appreciated. Otherwise, trust the numbers, not your guts. I'm Heyzeus, thanks for watching, see ya.